I'm Brandon.
And I'm Jesse.
We're Cannabis School. Having cannabis-infused conversations
With everyday people,
cannabis companies,
celebrities,
and your mom.
welcome to the Sesh.
Hey man, what's up? Hey. And I'm like, look, I don't want to spend a lot of money. I want to try out some edibles because they're all hit or miss. And he goes, agreed. All right, man. He just pulls up all the sales, all the lowest amount. I mean, they were perfect. And I was like, cool, man. He's like, yeah, you want to try these, expect this. He knew exactly what to ask me. I told him what I wanted to feel. And he matched it up pretty good because he uses the product.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was just a really good experience. And I feel like that's how we used to get it.
It just depends on, honestly, I don't know if I've had any dispensary ever ask me like, oh, do you want flower vape cartridges, like, or, concentrates? There's not really been any place that is that in depth in the experience. Like, none of them are really trying to go understand what I'm truly looking for.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've had that at a place. So,
Well, and that's what I've been thinking about. Hey guys, what do you think? Like, would it be cool if we created not just like a bud tender course, but how to engage with cannabis consumer course for bud tenders?
how to understand your
Yeah, how to engage with them, how to ask questions, how to get them to open up more and more, and not in the way that you typically get at a dispensary. All right, man, how can I help you today? Like, that's cool. I like that. Just saying, like, what you here for? Vape, edible, concentrates, or flower? What's been good lately? Like that inspires me to ask that question.
Yeah, or do you even know what you like? Like, I don't even get interactions like that. There's no one who's like, hey, what is it that you're really here for today? What's been your favorite thing that you've been using lately? Or what is it that has really stood out? Like, no one asks that. No one's really trying to understand what I'm there for. It truly is just, hey, welcome. It's like going to a cash register at any store.
Right.
Hey, thank you. Yes, you're here. Okay, here's your total. Okay, thank you. That could have been done by a food server.
Yeah. Oh, easy. And that's the thing. Like, your engagement at a dispensary matters so much on if you'll revisit that dispensary. And for us, and I'm not shit talking to anybody here right now, but for us, it's about the experience. It really is. And if we get a very
Submart.
or just a very like transactional engagement, if you're going to be transactional, then only present sales. Like, just be honest about it. As soon as they come up there going, all right, would you like to hear what's on sale? Like, literally, that would be the greatest way to interact with me. It's just like, what do you want to see that's on sale? I'm like, thank you very much. One, I don't know anybody who's just going to a dispensary going, fuck, I've got so much money to spend. What do I get? No, dude, you're always like, really?
What's your most expensive product that you carry?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I never do that.
I don't.
What? Why would you?
No. Because most of the time I feel like it's something that's overpriced, it's a brand name attached to it that isn't necessarily the best quality,
Right.
the best experience, but it's there, so, it's like, those aren't the best. I don't know. But even then, it's sales. Even the ones that are transactional aren't great at it, because if you're really trying to push the most, and that's really all they're doing, they're
Yeah.
not even telling me sales or deals or, oh, you can get this or this.
Yeah.
It's literally like the most meh interaction of,
Well, even
I
like,
hate my job. We're not talking about dispensaries, though.
no. We're just chatting away, but
Well,
we
kind of wanted to talk about, like, I want to go way back, long time ago, to little Jesse. Back before school, back before, like, getting into martial arts and everything that you are now. I don't know, so you were like 5 years old. Do you remember what you wanted to be when you grew up?
no. I have no.
Do Do you remember the earliest thing that you knew you wanted to be or thought that you wanted to be when you grew up?
When I was around about 10, I wanted to be a cop and an Air Force pilot, flying F-16s.
I could see that. I mean, airplanes were hella cool.
Yeah.
To fly that around.
Yeah, I mean, dude, media inspired me. Like, that's one of the things, man. Like, movies that I had growing up, they inspired me. It was cool. Like, you shouldn't look up to this fictitious dude who's flying a jet, who's not flying a jet, but he's playing like he's flying a jet.
Right.
Right? But it's so cool because what they've done is they've given you a possibility. And from that possibility, something really just flourishes. You know what I mean? And that's where, like, I wanted to be a pilot from watching, like, movies like Iron Eagle.
Well, it's because it inspired dreams and creativity and like all of this stuff. And I don't, maybe it's just me, but like I haven't felt really inspired by a lot of others' creations lately, whether it's a lot of TV shows or movies. Like they're not super inspiring. You can feel, like, you know, think about all that stuff and just very different.
It's consumerism across the board, right? Take for instance, like video games. There are so many fucking open world games.
Yeah, there's tons.
And then there's all these like Souls-like games. Like, hey, do you like your games hard? It's like asking people if they like spicy food. You get a game like Elden Ring, right? And you're not really into that genre. It's like going to an Indian restaurant and they go,
and getting
okay,
10 level spicy.
yeah, but they don't even ask you for spice. You just go, you'll get what you get.
Right.
And you're like, this is going to really hurt my butthole, isn't it? It's just like playing Elden Ring. Your butthole's
Yeah, it's going to hurt.
But it's, did I ever send you that cartoon?
Maybe.
Oh, dude. It's so funny how it is to play Elden Ring and it's just like this little cartoon guy constantly getting killed.
Oh, it's the worst. It's so hard to try and play that game.
Right.
But yeah, so all right, so you were 10. And
Yeah.
You wanted to be
Like a police officer or that.
okay.
Because I saw, like, for me, I had positive interactions with police officers growing up. Like, my dad had friends that were cops. They were nice people. I remember I was a young kid, maybe 11 or 12, and my buddy, he got kicked out of his house.
At 11 or 12?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the 80s, dude.
Jesus Christ.
Like, yeah, he got kicked out of the house, and yeah, he had nowhere to go. So we went over there, and his mom had put all of his shit in a couple of plastic bags, like the black plastic bags.
Yeah.
And we put it over our shoulders. And again, we're living in a place where there's known car thieves and fucking shit like that. Like, for Utah at this time, dude, that's like, there's like the 3 places in Utah that are a little bit scandalous. More likely
Valley.
more. Right. West Valley, you know, Ogden, you know, a couple other places, some
Maybe
places in Provo.
Pioneer Park.
Yeah.
Late at night in Salt Lake.
Right. But it wasn't, I mean, for that time, it really was. It was fucking horrible, dude. So, but from that horrible incident, like, we were walking down the street. Now, just picture it. You've got 3 kids that look like delinquents. We're all dressed up looking like the fucking rejects from the band Poison. The funny thing is this cop pulls us over because we look suspicious as fuck.
Yeah.
And all he says, he's like, hey, what's going on? And we told him. Our friend got kicked out of the house. What for? And the kid's like, my mom's just, I don't know. Like, nowadays, you just hear, my mom's a fucking bitch. But he didn't say that. He was just like, my mom is, I don't know. And he goes, so what's with the bags? He goes, well, this is all of his stuff. We're walking it over to our friend James's house. So how far is it? We're like several blocks that way. He goes, put it in the back and I'll give you guys a ride. And he gave us a ride. He didn't go up against the car or anything like that. And to make that point even stronger, like, the cop could have been racist. He got me, and I'm tan at the time, and I'm
I've got black hair. I look Hispanic origin when I have hair. But I'm with this kid who's Native American and this other kid that looks like a white trash kid. Like, we all look like we should be going to jail. But he treated us so well. So that, from those interactions when I was growing up, and there was many more,
Yeah.
I
what you
always
wanted
had a
to be
positive.
after that.
Yeah, I wanted to be that positive
No.
cop.
So after that,
I still wanted to be a cop.
you just wanted to be a cop your whole life?
Yeah, I wanted to be a cop most of my adolescent life until my senior year in high school.
What
And
changed?
I met a Marine recruiter, and
So you wanted to go from being a cop to being
a Marine, and because I talked to him about my dream of being a cop,
Yeah.
and they were like, "Well, dude, no better way to do that than join the Marine Corps. You'll get weapons training and all this other stuff. You'll learn how to be, a fucking dick." And not all Marines are dicks. I'm just fucking with you guys, but no, I mean it's
That's true.
but
James isn't a dick.
no.
So
No, he's not a dick. He's just a little simple. But for me, it was about the service. I wanted to go because I really admired this Marine. He wasn't a dick to me. All he talked about was positivity. He's just like, man, you can do almost anything. Like, when you're able to overcome pain and hardship, you can do anything in this life. And that's how he talked to me. And I was like, Marine recruiter wouldn't even dare talk like that to a kid today. He'd be like, hey, look, you want money? You want a place you could sleep and eat? Not have to pay for that? You want to play video games on the weekends? Shit, dude, join the Marine Corps. I mean, how do you get them excited about it anymore?
I have no idea.
But those were the things that I wanted. And I ended up joining the Navy because the recruiter was out to lunch, literally. And I was just so impatient. I'm like, I joined today. Like, if the Army recruiter would have been across there, I would have joined them. It wasn't like I was driven to it.
It was just they were there and it was open.
And then being in the military ruined all that for me. I realized what it is and what it is not. I realize it's still a act of good in this world. Without it, I know what happens if they're not there. And that's horrible because they've turned into a police instead of just, before we didn't get involved in everybody else's shit. But
When was
that that was back like,
I was like, we've been in every ship for so long.
no, like off of our continent. Like, we've messed with the French, we've messed with the British, the Spanish.
Yeah, I thought we've been doing that since the start almost.
Oh, I know, but we weren't leaving here to go over somewhere else at that time. We weren't deploying militaries off of U.S. soil or the Americans. But no, it was just, it's different now. And the idea was that it was going to be this, like, when I graduated boot camp, dude, like, I was crying when the fucking Star Spangled Banner, like, that's how fucking brainwashed you are. But at the same,
you believe so deeply in it, and it's
right, but it was the belief in what I was doing, but
Yeah.
not to say, I mean, I love this country. I've been all over this world. I know that, dude, when people go, oh, they hate Americans, few and far between, dude. Few and far between, because I was never treated horribly. My brother,
and maybe not that they're treated horribly, and in military stance it might be different, but like there's a difference between being a tourist, which most people are when they go.
Yeah.
And that's what most people don't like, because Americans are loud, boisterous, and disrespectful in most countries.
disrespectful in their culture.
In their culture, but that's where they are. So they're not in America, they're in someone else's culture. So in that culture where they are, it's disrespectful. But the thing is, we don't study or learn anything about the culture most of the time prior to going there. We just want to see it and experience it. So we go and we're just the same as we are here, which is Americans.
Well, that's funny you bring that up, because I remember when we were going into the Middle East, we had to get these like special classes, and all we focus is on all the negative shit. Don't do these things. What are you doing? You're telling almost out of adolescent boys, hey, don't do these things.
Oh, they're gonna do them.
And dude, they do it.
It's
They do it
most
just to
people in
fuck
the
with
military
people.
or just children do.
Oh, all of us are
just
no,
fucking kids.
no. You're a kid. You're a kid. I mean, I think back to when all the way, even when I met my wife. I was a kid. I wasn't an adult, and those are adults that are going out there, and they're told this whole like lifestyle you're going to have, and they don't really focus on being able to build that person up past boot camp. And that's the thing that really sucked for me, is that I didn't get to continue that feeling. And that's why I loved it.
A lot of companies, though, like a lot of companies, they get you in the door and they do that. Some are great and they want you to continuously learn, and they'll pay for stuff. And
Right.
Go here, go learn here. You want to learn this?
Yeah.
And that's great. And other ones, you get in the door and it's like there's no longer any value except for the paycheck. Like there's really no reason that you should be at that company. There's nothing they do for the person.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, how many of us grew up going, man, I want to be an account manager when I grow up, or I want to be like a customer service representative, or I want to manage a restaurant, or I want to, you know, all of this shit, or I want to go and do sales. I want to go knock doors and go door-to-door sales. Like, who when they're little was thinking that's what I want to do? And maybe they're wrong.
Bennett.
Maybe that's what you wanted to be when you grew up.
Bennett wanted to sell. He's always wanted to sell. That guy loves sales, and I think that's admirable. I think that's so cool. You know, and that's the thing too, is like the idea of what we want it to be as opposed to where we are now.
So different.
Well, I don't even think that's like, you don't hear that anymore from kids. Like, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a cowboy. But I think that's okay, because right now you've got so many false possibilities, like a YouTube star or
I think that's
anything
because
like that.
people are too lazy and they don't want to put in the work. Because any reality is a job, is a possibility. If they were to dedicate, like any of us, where we have to go work 40 hours a week, every week for a company, if any person truly were to dedicate 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year, to being a YouTuber, to being a gamer, to being whatever it is that they truly wanted to be, I think they could make a living off of it, because it's
but I mean,
it's that dedication.
well, and you also have to be able to go like, that shouldn't be what you're relying upon right now. Like, you have to have a just over broke job.
Yep.
Like, you have to have a job, and you have to be able to suck down your pride and say, okay, well, I've got to do things to make money.
Oh yeah,
That's
well,
it.
You have to make means, but
that's the thing, like setting up this idea that we have to be something when we grow up. Like, what do you aspire to? Like, if they don't have an example, that's what I talk about with my kids, is like, if they don't have an example, then I haven't opened up enough opportunities to them. And I should, you know, like, what are you into? If I understand who they are and their behaviors, I'm like,
truly as a person.
right. Like, as an individual, instead of going like, what do you aspire to be? Because look, fact is, I could want to be an NBA player all I want, and I could practice every fucking day. It doesn't mean I'm going to be. A matter of fact, the chances are lower.
That's such a rarity of that too, because there's like a certain level of skill. I feel like YouTuber, you could make a living. You could make 70,000 to 100,000 a year being a YouTube person if you spend 40 hours a week.
No, I disagree.
To get to there.
I disagree on that, because it shouldn't be the fallacy of that one. It's got to be the love of the content. It's got to be a labor of love. It can't be thinking about, like, my end goal is to make money here.
But most of them don't love it. It's just, I want to do this
because... Well, because it seems
easy.
Easy, yeah.
And most of our kids don't want to put in work. My kids are like, oh, well, like, what about this? Except for when they were younger, it was like, oh, I want to be a doctor. I want to be this. I want to be this. And, you know, now it's like, well, I don't need to be a doctor. Do I really want, like, they're still interested in learning and all these things, but like, is my day-to-day job and not truly wanting to be a doctor? But I feel like our
what does that
generation
mean?
had more.
What does that mean to them? Because like today, what is value?
I think we had more drive.
Well, no, I don't even think it's. Well, what is valuable today?
It depends. Everything's.
Right. Okay. Now, what was valuable 20 years ago?
All sorts of.
Well, the family was more valuable at that time, more emphasis on it. That's where you started to see more doctors, more people like that. When you present this idea of turning your hobby into your job, that should come as a side effect of what you're doing. I feel that when people have this idea of like, yeah, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to play Fortnite, right? And they go, okay, I'm going to make
I
this.
think it's most of that is like an idea, and they just like it because it's a hobby that they like doing. Because when we were little, how cool would it have been? I thought about it all the time. Oh, I'd love to ride my mountain bike for a living, get paid to do this. It'd be so cool. Okay, but is that a reality? Is that really a reality that I'm going to do, or is it just something I'm like, I like doing this, but to me, is it something I want to dedicate 40 hours every single week to make it a job? Because it's like, even the things of like going back to Top Gear, they had some guy on. It was like, oh, you do this. How much? Oh, he was an Olympian, and it was like, how many hours are you spending every day? And he's like, oh, I spend 3 hours a day. And they're like, oh, only 3? And he's like, well, it's high intensive training and it's specialized in here and hyper focused here and that, but it's 3 hours a day that he's spending. But that's not everyone. Some people have to dedicate 8 hours to get the same amount of output that someone else with a higher skill set can get in 3.
No, totally. And
I don't think a lot of us want to, like, the idea or the concept. It's like our kids, oh, I want to be a Fortnite gamer, or I want to be a YouTuber, I want to do this. The idea and the concept is cool because, well, that sounds fun to just make YouTube videos. Well, but what is your purpose of your YouTube? Like, there's no real thought right now.
Well, but
that's going into.
But it's limited on their side too. They don't have a whole lot to be able to pull from. Like, we don't have years and years and years of memories and ideas.
All of those are a reality they could do, but it's more of like most of it's like, hey, I want to do this. Well, why? Because it's fun. Okay, but is there a lot of thought put into that, or is it just like they're young, they're early, and it's that excitement of,
well, I can see where you're coming from. You like to be able to weigh everything out. You want to have research from it. It's not impulsiveness. You don't want to be impulsive. You want to be able to make sure that this is something you could do right away. And so you put a lot of time into it.
With a job most of the time.
Oh, no, like everything, like the law stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, I do. I like to research. Especially when I get into something. But, there's nothing that growing up that I was like, oh, I really want to be this, that I was dedicating.
Did you want to be anything?
I wanted to be like my dad. So when he was, when he worked at Stouffer's, I wanted to work at Stouffer's. When he worked at RC Willey, I wanted to be a salesman at RC Willey. When he started building homes and was a contractor, I was like, oh, I want to be a contractor. And the only time that I actually thought of being anything different growing up was when it got to the point that I would have discussions with my parents, because my parents they were lectures, they weren't discussions. I would have lectures where my parents would sit and lecture me. And then in these lectures, most of theirs came from emotion and never in logic. And unfortunately, I'm a logical person. So they'd have these arguments, and then I would have a very logical response, very logical answer. And my parents were like, you're really good at arguing. No, it's not. I'm not arguing. I'm literally just giving a response that's logical to what's going on.
You're deducing your emotional input.
And so they were like, oh, you should be an attorney. And I was like, oh, I actually might enjoy arguing with people. I might actually enjoy putting logical perspectives in emotional situations in front of people. And then I realized how much of it was just researching and studying and case precedents and previous case law and that. And I was like, I don't really want to spend all of my time doing that. So I didn't dedicate time towards it. And it wasn't until later in life when my ex-wife was like, you need to know what you're doing. You need to do this, and so that's when I started going to school for it. And I was like, oh, I'll be a surgical tech. I'm going to go into reconstructive plastics. And then it was like, well, I had 2 kids and I didn't want to miss them growing up. So then I was like, well, computers, because I worked at MyFast and that was the most money I had made to date. And I was like, well, I don't have to go to school to go into IT stuff. I can go here. And so I kind of segued there. And so it was never like I really wanted to be this when I grow up. And then I never imagined that I would be sitting here with my best friend for most of the time, talking about cannabis, educating people, and designing like ways to help people find quality cannabis, get their medical cards, and just really change and educate, just kind of change the narrative around cannabis. I never thought that that is what I would do.
Well, I mean, and I don't even think that's. I mean, and no misconceptions, sides. We are not making a living off this whatsoever at this moment, and we're totally fine with that. We're doing things to be able to bring value, and that's why we have it. Is because we've been trying to figure out, like, well, if we do anything with this, how do we bring value? And we have something coming along. We've talked about it almost every single episode. So, and we're gonna keep talking about it all the time. So
Until it's up. I
yeah.
mean,
Well,
after
even when it's
that.
up, it's just all the time. But the thing is that the reason why is just because we're building out a resource for it. But this is just one of many things that the idea of being something to me is illogical in my sense, because I'm multifaceted. I can do a lot of different things. And so I like to do.
It's probably because we always are so used to needing to have a label attached to everything since we're little. That so growing up,
That's
it's,
probably why you liked your dad so
what are you
much.
going to be? Well, I don't know, because I
Well,
don't
because he
know
always
what
did
this
something new.
he always, and he could do everything.
Yeah. Your
Not
perception was he
at
did
the
everything.
time, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I know, yeah, there's a lot he can't do, and that's okay. I don't like. No one needs to do everything.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying,
But
like,
at
the
the
perception
time,
at that time,
yeah.
it's like, which is cool because you're thinking about him, not necessarily like he's my hero. It's just like, you know what? My dad always seems like he's always into what he's doing.
Well,
And that's cool.
he was kind of my hero, not in like I want to be exactly like him, because there was a lot of flaws and things that I looked at and was like, I don't like that. I don't want to be like that at all. And certain aspects that I hated, and I was like, I don't like that. Like,
certain
but I
things that
was
stuck with you.
but I was young, and just like all of us,
Yeah.
how much of our parents like rub off on us, stick with us, and we're just like little carbon copies of our parents with
Oh,
some
even down
things
to the
and-
gene, man. There's like
Yeah.
certain idiosyncrasies, physical things that you do that relatives did.
Yeah, it's
And
so weird.
It's
There's
so crazy.
faces I make or things that I do that it's like, oh, that's your mom. Oh, that's your
Dude,
dad.
it's like
Like it-
grandpa
Yep.
looked just like Curtis. Like 100%, dude. He looks just like your
hilarious.
brother. And it's kind of funny, like even the temperament is slightly the same. Like
Oh.
grandpa became softer as he got older.
That could be. I don't remember angry grandpa. So
No, not necessarily angry, but he was very curt. Like Curtis can be very curt, right? He's just to the point.
yes.
Unless you're talking about something he's really into. But that's the thing, dude. It's like, it's understanding that I don't, and I love the question you gave, man, because I don't propose that to my children anymore. I tell them what's going to help you feel fulfilled, what's going to help put food on the table. And if you can't be fulfilled with what you're doing, how do you find that? What are you interested in? Like my daughter, she's interested in helping animals. I'm like, cool. I was like, when you're old enough, you should volunteer at like animal shelters and stuff
Yeah.
like that. If you could
If that's
handle
what you
that.
want to do, yeah.
Right. Or you want to
But
work.
they only know once they try.
Right.
And
and
that's the best part about volunteering and being able to do that when they're young.
give it a try.
Yeah, it's like that's what I'm like. I love the idea of having my kids try all the stuff they want, because who cares? And honestly, your life will change so many times. It's like, okay, I've been a million different jobs, just like you. I've done a million different things. But at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, you can make money doing almost anything.
You really can. And the funny thing too, man, it's like you were just saying something that triggered a funny thought in my head, which it's like you wouldn't, there are parents that are like, I've got relatives, I'm not going to say names, but I've got relatives that force their kids to clear their plate. I am not that. What you're encouraging is overeating.
My parents were that way, but we were all small people, and it
Well,
was just,
I imagine
you
with
eat
yours,
what you get.
right? Because they
So-
were like,
This is dinner. Don't waste food.
because the elders are so skinny, and so they were just like putting down like a half tub of lard, and they'd be like, spoons out, kids, because we want you to live, right? Like these guys burn fat so quickly. Like when they say like, oh, I put on a few pounds, I'm like, really? Like
Yeah,
your
being
dad saying
impressive.
that he put on pounds, I'm like, really?
I know. I don't ever notice it on him.
Yeah, it's a little pooch
But
maybe.
he feels it in his back, and then
Oh, yeah,
now
the extra
he's
weight?
pre-diabetic because of his sugar eating and genetics. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's predisposition. His dad was that way. But that's the
Yeah.
thing, man. Like, I've just been thinking about that, and it's especially like, the place that I don't see it being as hard of a problem, and that may be a problem for somebody going like, no, you should encourage them to do something and strive to be something. Sure, but does any kid know who they are? Do
right,
you want them following Logan Paul? Like,
right.
dude, my son loves WWE, right? And it's the WWF, right? It's the fake wrestling, well, the semi-fake wrestling. They really kick the shit out of each other, so it's not all fake, but the interactions are fake, but the
Yeah.
wrestling is real. But Logan Paul is now a wrestler.
I want the garbage.
Yeah, he's a wrestler because I mean he's pretty athletic. He's built. He's tall.
Yeah.
He could do it, and he puts on a good show. But all I think of him is, you're a piece of shit. Like, before, I don't know how you got to your level, but before, dude, you were pretty much disowned by the social media community because you were making fun of people who hung themselves in Japan.
Yeah.
And then now you're like somebody to aspire to. And my son goes, I really like Logan Paul. And I was like, hey, you know what? I usually don't say anything, but he is not a good person.
Yeah.
But you could like his character, but he's not a good person. And he goes, okay. And then he was saying that because Logan Paul was on last night
Yeah.
on Raw. And I was like, yeah. And the reason why I say that is just because your actions show so much more. So that's why I think about with your father, is that your father's actions were admirable to you. And you saw how others interacted, but how he
I
he
always saw
he approached it as, I can do it.
his work ethic. My dad never gave up. He never stopped working. He was like the hardest worker I ever knew. And he was always constantly like running, go, go, go. Just, we would get stuff done way faster. We built homes in, what did he say, 90 days? Less than 90 days. From the time it was breaking ground to the time it was done, ready to be sold, was less than 90 days. That was without a massive crew. That was my dad with like me, Curtis, Alec, and then him hiring out, larger stuff that he didn't want to do. But we would do that in just a few months tops.
Oh yeah.
Because that's just how we were raised, that was the work ethic. And so it was always like, you work hard, it pays off if you work hard, but you work hard.
Well, and a caveat to that, though, is that if all you're focused on is working hard to make money, you could find yourself in a lot of pain later on. And your dad's
Definitely.
back is a testament to that.
His is also a lot of different things that happened. He was in a bus accident when he was 14, and his arm was out, and a lady ran into his arm, and it fucked his back up when he was then.
Oh, no.
I
But
mean, he had an entire an entire wall that was framed all the way down, that was fully sheeted up, that landed on his back, and that fucked him up. So there's certain things that, like, accidents in there that tie into that. That's
Totally.
just made it.
But even now, dude, like you talk
Oh,
about,
yeah.
like he gets back from getting his back surgery and he's on a backhoe already. And you're
That's
like,
because he has no chill.
well, no, because it honestly, a lot of that is the cultural aspect. It's work hard to work hard. It's the old. I mean, look, if everything shut down, it's not working hard. It's just life, right? You're up early and you go to bed late because you're working all day to prepare to eat.
Yeah.
That's all you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
You're either hunting or you're
Well,
foraging.
He
or
works
you're
hard, but his is only in spurts now. So he
because
works
he's
hard.
limited.
Well, he also doesn't have a lot he has to do.
Right. And but for that same reason, like I find a
Because
lot
he's
of
made enough now. So he worked really hard.
yeah, but it's
and it
still
paid
it
off.
probably drives him nuts to
Which
just
part?
sit still.
Oh, yeah. Well, because you think about anyone, any human who spends their life going 40 plus hours every week to a job, the second you retire, what the fuck do you do?
That's the thing. That's why I've loved my nomad culture that I've gotten into with an entrepreneurial. I'd actually call it more nomadic than entrepreneurial, because I believe entrepreneurial is once you've hit a certain level where you're actually growing, you're making money, and you're providing a lot of value. That's when you've kind of reached that status. But I believe there's a status below it, and it's called nomad. And it's figuring that shit out and trying to survive. And you're just like, where do I go? They're like, I don't know. And you're like, fuck. And then you find other nomads. You're like, oh, like
Yep.
you're just clinging together going, fuck, this is scary, but you look like you know what you're doing, so I could look like I know what I'm doing, and you're both going through it afraid. It's a lot like what we've done. Like when we started this, we had no idea what it would be, and even though we're on the precipice of bringing out something amazing, at the same time, I'm just like, cool. It's still a labor of love. I don't loathe recording with you. I've talked to other podcasters who hate recording. They're at a point where they fucking hate their co-host.
How long have they been doing it?
Years.
That sucks.
Some of them short. That's why so many of them fail.
Oh yeah, because
There's a clash of personalities.
yeah, I can
And,
see that.
and I don't want to listen to solo stuff unless I'm listening to like Bill Burr
It's
rant
gotta be
about
hard.
like strawberries. or
Even
some shit.
the other one, solo shit is so hard. It's not a conversation. It's not a connection. It's different. It's a way different thing trying to do a solo engagement.
Yeah, but I like
know.
it though, man. I've been listening to it and I
Yeah,
enjoy it.
It's fine, but it's not a conversation. It's so much easier to have a conversation. And it's great. Like I
But
can
that
talk
makes
in my
sense with-
head,
No,
you know.
it's because it makes sense with your logical mind. Like logically, I just can't have this conversation with somebody else. Like an actor is not for you, right? You couldn't be an actor because it would be really difficult. Going, nah, I wouldn't do that though. Like
Yeah, I've kind of
here's
thought
where
about it.
you
Like, it'd be
here's where
so
you're into
hard.
guys in prison.
Yeah, to like
And
get
action.
into the roles, and I'm like, God, how would I? Like, I don't even know how I would play that.
But I would love that.
You know?
I totally love that because I'll do that shit, right?
Yeah.
Just because I enjoy the interaction. I like the element of surprise.
And some people love the like pretending and that whole aspect, or like
Yeah.
different world. And I'm like, I don't have
Except
that.
improv.
Yeah, like
hate
I
improv.
just, to me, it's it's like Dungeons and Dragons. I just can't get into it, and it's not yucking someone's yums. It's just not my cup of tea. So,
Right.
But hey, thanks for tuning in. What did you guys want to be when you grew up? Did you have some weird, crazy, like, did you want to be an OnlyFans star? Did you want to show your feet? Was that even, God, that's like, I hope there's no one that wanted to be an OnlyFans star, because
Dude,
that
there's
means
still
you're way
Jerry
too young.
Springer. You know that, right?
Yeah.
It's called Fresh and Fit. That's the new Jerry Springer, dude. I mean, it's Fresh and Fit is Jerry Springer. It's fucking whatever podcast. That's Jerry Springer. So if you like watching just the lowest forms of humanity, go there,
Jerry
because it's
Springer.
like, you know what? I enjoyed, like, I love those Jerry Springer episodes.
Oh, they're so weird.
Not
you know?
only am I'm not into you anymore, girl, but I'm actually into your boyfriend. Woo! And then the guys start fighting. And you're like, what is this shit?
It's so weird. I don't
It's a
know
circus.
how that was TV, but like, oh
Because
my
it's a
gosh,
circus, dude.
it was.
We didn't have freaks. We didn't have. I mean, you think about it. Like back then, like Barnum and Bailey. If you ever seen like The Greatest
Yeah.
Showman,
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's fictitious, but there's a lot of truths in there. But he created this place for people who are outcasts in society
Oh yeah.
to be on display and to show others.
It's like watching Freak Show on
Yes,
wow, I can't even think of that.
FX,
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
dude,
that
it's
show
so
is
great because we're into this strange. That's why everybody's
the
looking into the
macabre,
sky, dude.
dark, the
Like aliens, like everybody, like there was people who were freaked out and other people were like, shit, it's about time. I want my ray gun.
yeah.
Right? But no, anyways. Hey guys, take care. We love you. Talk to you next week.